Hello and welcome. Um, and in this film, I want to talk about racism. And I would stand up against racism no matter where it is, no matter who it's against. And to stand against racism is the right thing to do. We live in a multicultural society, and we have friends, neighbours, and, who are of different races, and Britain is better for having many different cultures all living and working in one country. But I have noticed that when it comes to not everyone, but certainly a lot of the lefties who I know of, certainly in this town, don't know if you can say this about them overall in this country, and there's some good people. I don't want this to sound as sort of like saying that they're bad people. They stand up for what they believe in, and they do the right thing. But they seem to have a certain target group each time. It used to be Jewish people, it's now Muslims. And what I mean by this is that, going back into the past, you would have been standing up against people who made anti-Jewish comments or anti-Jewish people. Now it seems to be Muslims, which is the right thing to do, and it's good that they stand up and fight for the rights of Muslims and to stand against anybody who wants to say anything that is considered to be Islamophobic. But do we just have target groups or focus groups? For me, I think that's wrong. What about black people? What about Asian people who are not Muslim? And when I mean that, what about Sikhs? What about Hindus? What about Chinese? What about people who are Irish? What about people who are from Eastern Europe? And of course, I'm not saying that they won't stand up for those people, because they do, and they do a very good job at it, and that's the right thing to do. And so it's not just focused in on Islam, but there does seem to be a lot of thing about focusing on Islam. This, as I said, that is the right thing to do, because they are the group that has been badly targeted by the system. But if we are to stand up for all racism, we must stand up for all of it. We must stand against all forms of racism, no matter where it comes from, no matter who it's affected by. And just because you don't, just because the media and the system is deliberately targeting Muslims right now, does that mean that we forget about a group over here who nobody is hearing about or nobody is talking about, or group over there which nobody's talking about. Cannot just, I think, just say, well, we're just going to wholeheartedly just support Muslims and forget about all these other communities, because that would be wrong as well. To forget about these other communities and these other groups would be wrong as well. And surely that's what diversity is supposed to mean. I've seen these banners, which certainly you'll find on the left, about talking about diversity, but then underneath it all, they're only focusing on Islam. And whereas that's great that they put so much into looking after Muslims, they should also be thinking about the wider diversity of people who are not Muslims, or people who are, as I say, who perhaps are Afro-Caribbean or African, or people who are still finding themselves being persecuted because of their race, their colour, or their creed. Do we just forget about all of those, just to think, well, right, we must protect this one group, forget about all the rest? And I personally would stand up against racism no matter where it pops up its head, and that to me is the most important thing of the lot. That as people on the left, we should stand up against all forms of racism, not just one particular target group. And because it's important that we make a stand against all racism. All racism is wrong, whether it's targeted at a person of a coloured skin or somebody who's white. And yes, there can be racism coming towards white people as well. Just to think that it only happens towards black people is wrong, because obviously white people can face racism as well. It's not just white people creating racism, but it can also be the other way around, whereby you can find people who make racist comments about white people as well. And we should stand against all forms of racism, no matter where it comes from and no matter who it's directed at. It's all wrong, and it's something that we should stand up to. And I think there's a lot of NIMBYism that goes on, or what I've seen is NIMBYism. NIMBYism means not in my backyard. So therefore, from for a lot of lefties who are in this country, if it's not directly affecting the country that they're living in, and although they're talking about themselves internationals, they will focus in on that particular country. And there's a lot of NIMBYism that goes on, in my view. What I mean by this is that I will post up things to do with other groups around the world which are facing racist attacks, like the Native Americans, for example, or like the Aboriginals, or perhaps people in Tibet who are facing some form of racism coming from the Chinese government. I won't just focus in on just things which are affecting just people in this country, but I'll post up things which are happening all over the world. And you'll get people who are taking the mickey out of me for doing this. or who are mocked me for talking about Native Americans. And yes, of course, there are no Native Americans living in the UK from what I know of, because they do not leave the US, because that is their homeland. And why should they? Because they have no reason to leave that as their country. You know, they've faced centuries of genocide and still do, and they can face racism at the hands of white people in the US, and awful discrimination. And for me, that, you know, just like the Palestinian people, they can face some very bad forms of racism, but shouldn't be stand up for all forms of racism. You know, you shouldn't have a focus group, which I think is my big problem there. Some lefties almost seem to focus in on the one focus group, and that's it. It doesn't matter what else is happening beyond that. They have one focus group, and for me, I think that's wrong. Unless it's great that those people get so much attention and support. What about everybody else? What about the rest of the world? You know, do we just, if we are internationals, as you know, a lot of the socialists I hang around with call themselves, then surely we should be looking at, you know, the wider world. You know, whether that's India, whether that's Pakistan, whether that's Russia, you know, US, Africa, you know, Europe or wherever. And that for me is the important thing. Do we just say, well, if it's not in my backyard, then I don't want to know about it? To me, that's a very narrow-minded way of looking at things. You know, we're all part of one race. We all have the same blood. We all, you know, breathe, eat and die in the same way, regardless of our cultural or spiritual beliefs. And therefore, we should think of the whole human race and think about protecting all human beings, not just protecting only one particular group. And that is my particular point of view, and that's how I think and feel. And, you know, I just think that we've got to get off the concept of having a focus group and get onto the concept of having a much wider view of things. And not just to think only in the UK way, but also in a much wider sense. All part of the same human race, all human beings at the end of the day, and we all have the right to live and survive and coexist with one another. And if we are to, you know, create a better world for everybody, then we've got to think about everybody and not just one particular sort. You know, not just think about what's around us. If you have simply like saying, well, only look after one particular type of cat, and what about all the rest of them? And surely as human beings, we are, you know, all human life should be important, and all human life should be sacred. And it's important that you know, we show our support and solidarity and our love towards people, no matter where they are, no matter what struggles they are going through. And that's my point of view.